Stay vigilant and observant. Extraordinary imagery, unexpected measurements, and mathematical alignments that seem suspiciously precise to be purely coincidental. Recent days have brought fresh information about the Interstellar Visitor Atlas, rattling the scientific world, and Avi Loeb, among the most vocal advocates regarding its peculiarity, addressed the matter directly. Certain questions have been downplayed in public discourse, and we're still grappling with signals that defy explanation. But what truly transpired? Why do numerous pieces of evidence challenge the conventional comet explanation? And the inquiry that captivates everyone's attention. Could Atlas potentially be orchestrating an encounter with Jupiter? Let's dissect this element by element, theory by theory, as deeply as reasoning and verbal calculations permit us. The unfulfilled expectations of the briefing, why media coverage missed key details when NASA convened the briefing to unveil Atlas imagery. Numerous people anticipated intrigue and revelation. What emerged instead was a tempered account. It's merely a comet, nothing remarkable. Loeb takes issue with this position. He argues the briefing concentrated on dampening anticipation rather than addressing the genuine puzzles. The information had already presented in his documentation of the question and answer session. He emphasizes that the publicly released images proved largely uninformative, apart from specifics the authorities overlooked. Take, for instance, the highest image obtained by the Mars orbiting probe, which revealed something peculiar, an elongated luminosity preceding the object along its trajectory, not simply directed toward our system's central star, as one would anticipate from sublimating ice pockets. This prompted the theory that what appears ahead could be a directed stream or jet operating quite differently from what we observe in typical comets. So why downplay it? When anomalies exist, they warrant emphasis. Without actively seeking them, discovery becomes impossible. That represents the core criticism, and it's what we'll investigate. The apparently minute trajectory modification, Jupiter's hill, radius, and the mathematical alignment. Here arrives one of the puzzle's most striking components. Loeb presents a straightforward orbital mechanics, computation, Jupiter's gravitational influence zone, termed the hill radius, and the projection of Atlas's closest approach point in March 2026. The figures, Jupiter's hill radius on that date, measures approximately 53.502 million kilometers. Atlas's predicted closest approach stands at 53.445 million kilometers, with roughly 0.06 million uncertainty. Put differently, these values align within 1 part per 1,000 and fall within statistical boundaries. This alignment reaches the magnitude of 1 in 26,000 depending on measurement methodology, across the total orbital range. What does this signify practically? Should Atlas have marginally altered its velocity during perihelion and measurements exist of non-gravitational acceleration precisely during this interval? Then the outcome was a nearly flawless graze of Jupiter's influence sphere's boundary. If this represents an extraordinarily improbable accident, acceptable. But should Atlas possess minimal propulsion capability to guide that approach, we'd be observing behavior consistent with a vehicle attempting to position something into Jupiter's orbital environment. Satellites, probes, devices at equilibrium locations, whatever. Loeb contends the adjustment's magnitude corresponds with the measured non-gravitational acceleration value. A challenging question. What if coincidence isn't the answer? The compilation of irregularities, from the forward jet to the unusual nickel before. Entertaining the technological theory, we must examine the inventory of peculiar signals surrounding Atlas, unconventional chemical makeup, extreme polarization, focused jets, and additional factors. Avi assembled a probability-ranked list of anomalies compilation, explaining why the scientific establishment remains split between exotic comet and something, demanding alternative explanations. I'll review these irregularities comprehensively with concise, practical observations. The review maintains Loeb's original framework, a sharp trajectory, orientation shift occurring with excessive precision to attribute to recognized natural disturbances, an emission configuration producing an anti-tail aimed toward our systems, central star with alignment unexplainable solely by observer location, a nucleus possessing density inconsistent with similar category objects, traveling excessively fast for the calculated mass, the unlikely circumstance of passing close to Mars, Venus, and Jupiter, as though its path benefited from an alignment not occurring naturally, a metallic constitution with abnormally elevated nickel concentration, substantially exceeding anticipated levels for bodies resembling Oumuamua or similar visitors, gas discharge with remarkably minimal water content, exhibiting a proportion so diminished it contradicts standard behavior for such objects, an optical reaction remaining intensely negative, something absent from any documented natural object records. The origin point corresponding to the identical celestial sector linked with the renowned WOW signal, a geographical recurrence, acknowledged even by doubters. A rapid luminosity surge accompanied by an atypical bluish tone, exceeding the reference coloration used by instruments. Jets whose strength would demand energy absorption capability beyond what the nucleus should tolerate. generating a disparity difficult to dismiss. A non-gravitational acceleration suggesting considerable mass depletion without observable cloud or debris trail justifying it. Emission streams maintaining identical directional orientation across vast distances without the natural variation anticipated from rotation. What remains undone and should be accomplished despite all documented anomalies? One aspect cannot be overlooked. We lack focused and sustained observations. Available information is fragmented, gathered by various instruments on separate occasions, employing incompatible methodologies. For an object this exceptional, that proves inadequate. Most imagery informing our conclusions originates from telescopes functioning opportunistically, not through coordinated initiatives. Without systematic spectroscopy, comprehensive temporal sequences, and multiband surveillance, we remain merely responsive rather than genuinely investigative. This generates the misleading perception that our knowledge suffices when actually we face substantial information voids. Should something extraordinary be occurring with Atlas, these voids represent precisely where artificial or natural explanations might conceal themselves. Before eliminating any theory, the baseline requirement involves a global, sustained observation effort, and thus far, nobody has executed that. Beyond natural propulsion, beam shields, and practical missions with this inventory presented, the technological theory surfaces not as speculation but as a logical interpretation of multiple concurrent signals. Precise trajectory modification, collimated and stable jets, atypical metallurgical composition, and non-trivial luminous characteristics. Loeb proposes that directed jets might constitute thrusters that post-perihelion aim toward our system's central star to exploit the gravitational field as a slingshot maneuver engineered to acquire velocity and modify trajectory, not simple gas ejection. Another practical and intriguing theory, Atlas's forward beam may not represent a material trail, but a micrometeoroid protection mechanism, particle streams, or charged radiation that ionize or redirect small debris before surface impact at extreme relative velocities. Simply stated, an interstellar vessel could employ a laser or particle beam to electrify and deflect minor hazards, safeguarding sensitive components. Loeb references this possibility in his question and answer documentation. And if the mission involves depositing devices at Jupiter devices positioned near the Hill radius, for instance, at L1 and L2 points they'd require only minor impulses for stable orbital insertion. Should Atlas reach that zone deliberately, we might subsequently identify objects orbiting Jupiter that weren't dispatched by humanity. Juno and other human probes could assist in that investigation. Opposition arguments, and the prudent scientific approach before rejecting the natural theory. It's reasonable to acknowledge that alternative explanations carry burdens. They must clarify why Atlas exhibits this precise combination of characteristics concurrently. Careful observers note that the universe possesses sufficient variability to generate unusual objects randomly, and that supplementary information, particularly detailed jet spectroscopy and thermal observations, perhaps with Webb, remains critical. Loeb himself states the proper methodology involves actively pursuing technological signatures rather than declaring absence, merely because nobody investigated. Before us lies a significant opportunity. Combined observations from ground-based telescopes, Webb Mars-orbiting probes, and Jupiter-directed missions throughout upcoming weeks and months. This data influx must be valued like treasure because only through it can we elevate or eliminate theories with certainty. Atlas compels us to decide. Will we adopt the convenient script of automatic interpretation, it's merely a comet, or will we explore without presumptions? Avi has been explicit. There exists a collection of anomalies that don't resolve into a straightforward narrative and demand targeted investigation. Should Atlas be natural, it will prove an exceptional comet, abundant with insights about remote stellar systems. Should it be technological? Well, that would transform humanity's understanding of companionship in the cosmos permanently. And to conclude with the question occupying everyone's thoughts, are you prepared to examine both directions before crossing? As Einstein advised, science requires that dual perspective. And we, the inquisitive, must track every fresh image, every spectrum, every velocity, reading with the focus this phenomenon warrants. The Atlas saga is only commencing. Share your interpretations, contribute your uncertainties, and naturally, comment and distribute this video to amplify the dialogue. Let's maintain our gaze skyward and our intellects engaged.